Hi, my name is Jim Green, and I'm a gunsmith. The name of my shop is Gunworks, town of Harrington, down East Maine. Today's rifle we're going to disassemble for a good thorough cleaning is called an FAL. Now, I don't speak French, but I know it stands for light automatic rifle, or in this case it's a semi-automatic rifle. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and start breaking it down for a good cleaning. I'm not going to cover much of the history on this particular gun. Anybody that knows much about firearms knows that FALs have been the free world's right arm for about 49 different countries. So before we disassemble any firearm, first thing you want to do is open the chamber up, take a look, make sure it's not loaded. So let's get started on this. Now, normal FALs have the lever for disassembly right up here. This one has been slightly modified. So in this case, we'll just push up on this lever and break the gun open like a shotgun. Reach inside here and you'll see the little, what they call a rat tail. This is part of the bolt carrier. Pull that out. Let's set the rest of the gun off to the side. Now the way to separate the bolt from the bolt carrier is you're going to pull back, up, and forward. Now sometimes these things have a longer firing pin than normal. These are this particular one's a century built gun, so when it gets hung up like this, what you'll have to do is reach up and push right here against the base of the firing pin, just shortened enough to go ahead and pull it the last bit out. That firing pin's a little bit long. Now, I'm going to recommend for a good clean, this is about as far as you go disassembling this right here. Now, if you really had to take your firing pin out, you could drive this firing pin retaining pin, the firing pin and the spring comes out the back, and then using a little hook, I'm going to show you, using a little hook you can pull back on this little piece right here that's spring loaded and just pop your extractor out. But since we're just covering a basic field strip and a basic cleaning, I'm going to just set this off to the side. Now, the other part of just a basic field strip, and these are a really simple gun. If you come up here and you take a look at the front end, right here on the sight block is a little gas block right here. It's going to have a spring-loaded detent on the side. Some of these models, depending on if it's metric or inch pattern, are going to have a little lever instead, but they still work the same way. You push that detent in, you'll rotate that counterclockwise, and then your piston comes out. You take your little gas plug out, and your piston and spring comes out the front. Now, for a basic field strip, that's pretty much going to be it. It's going to be pretty simple to strip this and clean it in the field. However, let's separate the upper and lower halves here. In fact, you'll notice right here it looks like a large screw. Along the other side it fits through a sleeve right here, and this is a split pin. So what you're going to have to do is hold this in place while you turn the screw on the opposite side. This is how you're going to separate the two receiver halves right here. This slot is large enough you could probably stick a dime or a small coin in that and use it in a pinch if you had to. Come on, fingers, work. See how that's a split pin? It's threaded at the base near the cap. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pin punch. Let me grab one over here real quick. And I'm going to stick it down inside the sleeve to push this other half out. There's your threaded sleeve that comes out the opposite side. You just simply pull the two halves apart like this. Now on this particular rifle right here, normally they have a sheet metal cover on them, but the person that owns this rifle decided he'd like to have some scope mounting space, so he replaced his sheet metal cover with a bolt-on cover made out of aluminum, which is nice. To remove this, you simply loosen these two screws and these two screws and just slide the cover off. Handguard, if you had to take it off, on this particular model here, and on a lot of them, they're going to have a screw right up here. You just turn this little screw. Once that's off right there, then you can pull forward on the handguard and drop it down and out. We're not going to mess with that. This is a pretty clean gun. I'm just showing you the field strip procedure. Now, if you put this thing on fire, which is the first click down, put your thumb over the hammer and pull the trigger. You can let that off right there. Then you can get down inside here and clean all of this out. On some FAL models I've seen, if you let that forward, then the hammer will trip forward far enough you can remove this little piece right here, your hammer strut and spring. But we're not going to fool with that in this right here. I'm going to advise that you don't disassemble the rest of this gun. Reason being is, even though there's no full auto bolt carrier, there's no ejector block for full auto, and there's no sear, which all go in the upper receiver. You don't want to start messing with things in here, because if you do have an accidental double tap, can't really see why you'd have that problem. But like I said, this is not Gunsmithing 101, but if you ever have an accidental double tap, I'm pretty sure the ATF is going to want to talk to you about that. But this is an FAL. This is field stripped for a good cleaning. I'm going to advise that you don't go much further than that unless you're an armorer or a gunsmith. Pretty nice rifle. I like these guns. If I didn't have an M1A or M14, I'd probably have one of these instead. Pretty simple gun. Procedure for reassembly is exactly opposite of disassembly. Now, you've heard me talk about some Q20 oil before. Well, this is a new oil that I'm carrying in the shop now. This is called Q20 Black Diamond. This has nano diamond technology in it, and it's formulated specifically for semi-automatic rifles in high heat, high friction applications. So when I clean this gun and I go to put it all back together again, I'm going to be spraying a little bit of Q20 Blue Black Diamond in it. Pretty good gun oil for a pretty darn good rifle. One quick note, the rifle is mostly reassembled, but one quick note that I forgot to mention that I want to mention for reassembly. Alright, once you get your spring and your gas piston back in place, alright, you're going to notice something on this gas plug right here. On one side there's going to be a hole, on the opposite side there's not a hole. Also, on these lugs right here, you'll notice, let me point them out, the one lug on this side is more narrow than the lug on this side. There's a particular way this thing goes back together, and I'm going to explain about these gas port holes right here. Okay, so let's slide this bad boy back together. If you look on the end right up here, let me pull this out so you can see it. All right, camera person, you see the gun's not loaded, right? Okay, if you look right there, you'll notice how you've got the narrow part at the top, the wide part at the bottom. That's how that gas plug is going to go back in. Now there's a particular reason why you need to turn this gas plug a certain way. Let's slide this back in here. Okay. Reason you want to put it together like this and rotate this around, in this particular case it says A on the top, and if you flip it all the way around it says G on the bottom. Well, these things used to be former military rifles, which basically said, hey, we can launch grenades off the end of this thing. You can't do that in the civilian world, but since they were using surplus military parts on these gun builds, if you reassemble this thing and turn it around the wrong way, all of a sudden you're going to have a single shot rifle. Reason being is because you have that little gas port. You turn it around the other way, it cuts the gas flow off from this piston assembly right here, and all your gas vents straight out the barrel. So if you put it back together incorrectly and you take it out and fire it, and you're ticked off because you got a single shot rifle, it's pretty simple. Push in the detent, flip it all the way back around until it functions. Another thing I was going to explain to you about here, what I like about the FALs, this adjustable gas assembly right up here on the end. Alright, you've got a gas port that vents. What you want to do is, if you're shooting different lots and different brands of ammo, I would open this thing all the way up, okay, fire one shot, and then start closing it down a couple of clicks at a time, and then fire it until she just starts to cycle. That way it won't beat the rifle to death. If you're shooting some stuff that was meant for machine gun, military surplus, you darn sure don't want it to beat itself to pieces. But you can make an adjustment on this gas tube right up here. But yeah, I just wanted to cover those last couple of things that are on this right here for disassembly and reassembly. So when you put that back together, just watch how you put that plug back in. Thank you for watching this latest Gunworks video. Down East Gunworks is a full-service fire and repair service for all your long guns and handguns that includes a high-tech machine shop for tooling obsolete parts. Old or new, if you have a firearm that needs attention, Gunworks can probably fix it, solve it, coat it, and make it work. If you're living in Down East Maine, come by the shop for a visit. We're located on Route 1 in Harrington. If you live elsewhere, you can reach us by going to the website www.downeastgunworks.com or call the shop at area code 207-483-2175. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please leave me a comment and rate the video. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll always know when I've posted something new.